Hello, my friends. This is part 4 in a series of videos on the evidence for astrology. Now we're going to get into the most exciting research we've done so far, which is on the bipolar disorder. This is the research that gives us the greatest confidence of all the research studies we've done so far, that astrology produces measurable effects, has concrete results in our lives. So, Giselle Terry. Giselle Terry is a marriage and family therapist in Los Angeles. She and I analyzed the charts of 912 people with bipolar disorder. This was data collected by Michael and Françoise Gauquelin. Michael and Françoise Gauquelin lived in France, and they were most famous for collecting data of famous people. They also collected data of people with various illnesses. They were able to go into the hospital records, find the birth records for people who were in the hospital for bipolar disorder. So they were hospitalized. They must have had a serious form of bipolar disorder. At the time they collected the data, which I think was around the about 1960s, I believe, somewhere around there. It was called manic depression. It's been relabeled to bipolar disorder. And this is what is in the charts of people with bipolar disorder. This is what our research found. People with bipolar disorder have Saturn in 7 vibration. Now, we learned in the previous videos in this series that 7 vibration gives introversion, quiet. When Saturn is aspecting other planets in 7 vibration, it inclines a person to withdraw into like a little shell, into their little cave, to be very quiet. This can be good. You can write books, you can read books, you can paint, you can do all kinds of things, you can focus. It's also isolating. And especially with children, people worry very often about the kids who have Saturn aspecting several planets or in major midpoint structures with other planets in 7 vibration, that they isolate, that they're not interacting very often. That's one configuration that we found in the charts of people with bipolar disorder, and we confirmed it when Giselle found over 90 additional cases of people with bipolar disorder in another database. So that's one thing. A second thing is that Saturn can be in 8 vibration. 8 vibration is a basic driving, motivating force. So that Saturn just being strong in 8 vibration makes a person serious, deep, quiet. Third thing we found is Uranus in 11 vibration. Wow, does that ever make sense? 11 vibration is unstable. Uranus is spontaneous. Uranus in 11 vibration is spontaneity, lack of impulse control, and gets involved in the manic phase of manic depression. A fourth thing we found is Jupiter in 13 vibration. 13 vibration tends to feel special, different from everybody else. When Jupiter is aspecting many planets in 13 vibration, the person can feel grandiose, so, like a part. They want to be a part of something much larger than the simple world they live in. This leads to the manic phase as well. Some people in their manic phases are very grandiose. Some are just more uncontrollable. So some are more Uranian 11 vibe, some are more Jupiter 13 vibe. Some have qualities of both. These are 2 different qualities that are expressed, 2 different energy vibrations that the person's attuned to during manic phase. So the amazing thing we found with manic depression, or what we now call bipolar disorder, is that people are simply drawn to those 2 ends of the spectrum. And it's not even that the planetary configurations are like a pathology. They're just drawn to these 2 extremes, and then they get into conflict with each other. So we see bipolar disorder not as a disease, but as a way of being that's uncomfortable, especially for other people. Because one day the person's isolating all by themselves, the other day they're wild and frenzied. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. And they need to work this in together. It's difficult. It's difficult for the person. They're driven to these extreme states, but there's a lot of benefit, potential benefit to it as well. And Jupiter in 8 vibration, just Jupiterian. And we found a little bit of Leo in the natal and 7 vibration, which we think leads to a lot of self-concern, concern about what state the person is in. They're wondering. They just question themselves a lot. We also put that 6th rule in there so we could test to see if zodiac signs could ever be confirmed very rigorously in future research when we get more data. But the first 5 are the major ones, and it's really the 7, 11, and 13 that are the strongest. Rules 1, 3, and 4 of these 6 rules are the most powerful and consistent in our research, with both the training data, the 912 people, and it was a little over 90, I forget the exact number, of additional people that we collected later and confirmed the formula with. And these are the 6 components. When you take the probability of the 912 people with the shuffled control group, you get a P less than 5 zeros and a 1. It's 5 sigmas less than 1 out of a million. And these are the probabilities for each component. And it's especially, you'll notice the Saturn in 7, 8, and Uranus in 11 vibe. Oh, the Jupiter in 13 vibe wasn't, NS means not significant by itself. You can also combine them. If you combine 1 and 2, the Saturn vibe, you get a probability less than 0.1. If you combine 3 and 4, less than 0.5. 3, 4, and 5, less than 0.1. All 6 components less than 1 out of a million. So we have these different components of bipolar disorder. And so we build a model that discriminates well between the control group. Again, that's a very, what we call conservative control group. If you can discriminate between this control group, which is artificially similar to the people, you have a very strong effect size. And then that's just the training data. As I'll explain later, we got new data and confirmed the formula with new data. That's why this one is so powerful. We confirmed it with new data, and also it builds on our previous research, which I'll talk about later, some of the previous research which showed how Uranus is moving and dynamic. We see it with the musicians in the Galquin study, the rock musicians. I'm going to talk later in the next video in the series, about the accent research with 11 vibe, the research we did on 7 vibe with introversion and extroversion, how we found this in introversion. So the bottom line is this. This research on bipolar disorder is very compelling. It gives us very great confidence because it's built on other research which confirmed the theory that Saturn would, in 7 vibration, would be introverted, Uranus in 11 vibration would be restless and on the go, unstable, that Jupiter in 13 vibration would be grandiose, built on previous research. It's an elegant formula, and most importantly, it was replicated with new data. So this is the strong evidence, not a proof, not 100% conviction that astrology works, but a large, solid body of data that suggests that astrology really has effects, real effects. So this is an academic discipline, real study showing how astrology works. And here's some details about the formula. You can pause the video and read this if you want to. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But the Saturn aspect, Sun, Moon, Mars, or Uranus in multiples of 7, 7, 14, 21, 42, or 48. This is every multiple of 7 up to 49 except 35. We don't expect 35 because 35 is a bit lighter. The 5 loosens up the 7 intensity. So it's consistent with theory. Saturn in 8 vibration, Saturn aspecting Moon, Mercury, or Mars. Uranus in 11 vibration. So Mercury or Mars in vibrations 11, 22, 33, or 44 with Uranus. Also Jupiter in additional vibrations. The slower outer planets often are in higher vibrations. than if a faster inner planet is involved. So the slow-moving planets can go up to very, very high vibrations. So there's 11 base vibrations. This is explained in more detail in the book, and I will give a reference to the book later. And Jupiter in 13 vibration, any planet, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, or Neptune, in vibrations 13, 26, 39, or 52. Jupiter in 8 vibration, Sun, Mercury, or Mars in 8, 16, 32, or 64. And Leo, Sun or Moon in Leo in the natal or 7 vibration chart. That's the details of what we found. This was replicated with new data. So the astrosignature, this combination of variables that indicates bipolar disorder, was first developed with Giselle's clients that we analyzed in detail, then with the 912 cases of bipolar disorder collected by the Gauquelins. Then in 2020, I went back to the formula and I improved it. I made it simpler, more elegant, got better p-values. Just went back and worked on it more. This is all described in detail in the book that I'll give you the reference to later. And the formula was simplified a little bit. So only Saturn in certain vibrations and only Jupiter in other vibrations. More simplified formula. We don't need to get bogged down in all of the details of this right now. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what this astro signature looks like. Saturn in 7 vibration, Uranus in 11 vibration, Jupiter in 13 vibration. Those are some of the key things that go on with bipolar disorder. As I told you before, the variables that we use and that we've confirmed, that we've used in this research, are not anything that any astrologer uses previously. This is all exciting new discoveries. So in 2020, it was 79, not 90 something. We found 79 more cases of bipolar disorder. And this is the ultimate scientific test where you test with new data. It's not a perfect test because we only had 79 cases. It would be better if we had hundreds, but 79 is enough to test it, and it confirmed the formula. It confirmed it extremely well. The average score for the 79 cases was almost the same as for the 912. 50.48 versus 5103. The control group has only 44.8. You can see that huge difference. And it ends up giving huge statistical significance. In other words, we collect 79 more cases, and they have these planetary configurations really just as often as the training data. The data that we use to develop the formula, we collect new data, and it's there basically just as strong and just as clearly distinguished from other people. It's amazing. We did a hypothesis test and confirmed the formula. So these models are built, refined, tested with different data over and over again with different groups, and it's built up to this level of very high confidence. The results were actually more impressive than we expected. That they scored so high on this astro signature for bipolar disorder with the 79 new cases. Just amazing. The results are more impressive than we expected. It's a strong confirmation of astrology. The theory is also confirmed in other studies. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over other studies that confirm this model, that confirm some of the ideas that were incorporated into this one. So here's some technical details. This is all in the book. We don't need to go over this now. And here's the final conclusion. The enormous amount of research that led up to the bipolar disorder research and was confirmed in this research is this: 7 vibration correlated with introversion. I'm going to show you another study we did. I think this was in 2010, as we will see, on introversion extroversion. A very sophisticated study, beautifully done, and it showed 7 vibration inclines to introversion. Exactly the same thing we see with bipolar disorder. And we'll see some studies that show 11 vibration with instability, also confirmed in the bipolar disorder. So what we're having is many studies of many different things: accidents, scores in introversion, extroversion, people diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So many different studies confirming the theory over and over again. This establishes vibrational astrology as a fully developed evidence-based astrology. In other words, we have solid data science. If you want to pursue this kind of astrology on a theoretical level, you have to learn about all the research methods and how it's analyzed and all that detail. If you're a therapist using astrology, or if you're an astrologer, you don't need to get involved with the research. You just apply the findings. And I teach classes, and other people teach classes on how to interpret charts, compatibility, forecasting, relocation. Using these ideas, we don't have to get into the research. So there's the research wing of vibrational astrology, and then there's the therapist and application wing, or not therapists, the consultants using astrology. My point is this: if you want to be a consultant, don't worry, you don't have to get into all the research details. You can use the results in your consultations. So this is the book, The Astrology of Bipolar Disorder, A Scientific Breakthrough. This is the book that explains the discovery process, the decades of research of different kinds that led up to the final finding in much more detail than I'm explaining in these YouTube videos. So if you really want to get deep into this, if you really want to analyze it, if you're a cynic of astrology and skeptic, we say skeptical, I think that's the wrong word, cynical, you just think this is nonsense, you must read the book. You got to read the book. You got to not just listen to this video. Go through it, read it carefully, and then we can debate it. I'm challenging scientists, astronomers, anybody who wants to debate this, to open public debates, to clear the air, to share, not to just live in our own camps. Talk about whether this is real or not. But in order to discuss it, I recommend you read the book, and then we can have an open public debate. Anybody wants to debate it, let's do it. And also the Cosmobiology Institute has been established. This is an academic research institute. Let me bring that up here. Let me close these websites. So let's go to cosmobiology.org. So I'm in a browser here. Let me make this browser fit in the captured area so you can see that. Cosmobiology.org. This is the research institute that's being founded by data scientists. Here's the mission the home page, the mission statement for this research institute. Here's the founding members: data scientist Peter G. Neumann and myself. We are establishing the board of directors and several committees, and by the end of 2022, the nonprofit should be established and fully functioning. And we'll have articles, place for people to donate to the nonprofit. The research software we're developing that'll be open source and available, current research projects, education. This vibrational astrology, or we also call it cosmobiology, is moving mainstream. Data scientists, other academics, and research experts. I notice this is going off. I'll just put that in there. Other research experts getting involved in this. Wow, this is exciting. Why? Because the research is impressive. So this is what's happening. This evidence-based astrology is booming. It's going mainstream because it's based on the same principles as other modern fields are. So I'm at 20 minutes. I think I'm going to stop here. And in part 5 of this series, I'll tell you about other studies that we've done. I'll tell you about the studies done on extroversion, introversion. Also the studies done on athletic performance. I'll tell you about some of the other studies that were done, most of these preceding the bipolar disorder research and led up to it. So some additional studies that have been done. Many, many studies. want to give you an overview of some of the major research that's been done that very, very, very strongly suggests that this type of astrology produces real, measurable effects, concrete, tangible effects. The results are very impressive, very compelling. So, just answering that question that I laid out at the beginning, is there solid evidence for astrology? Yes. And this is what it is. Very different from any other kind of astrology, but built upon the rules that other people use. It's just a further evolution of the ideas. Okay, let's get into this other research in the next video in this series. We covered a lot on this video, where the emphasis is on the biggest and most important research, which is the bipolar disorder research. But what makes the bipolar disorder research so important, one of the things that makes it so important, is that it's built on so many other studies and confirms the theory that was found in them. So let's look at some of those other studies. Okay, my friends, I will see you. This is, what are we on now? Part 4. I'll see you in part 5 of this series. It'll probably be the last one in this series of videos. God bless. Namaste.